This story is written and narrated by 𝗕𝗲𝗰𝗸, inspired by the true and often overlooked journey of a man who shattered the strongest walls of prejudice with courage, intelligence, and unyielding will. It is based on real historical accounts. The rise of the first black general in the U.S. Army, a man whose name became a symbol of dignity in the face of oppression. This is the story of Benjamin O. Davis Sr., the soldier who fought not just wars overseas, but battles within his own country. In the heart of America's divided past, when the color of a man's skin could decide the weight of his worth, one soldier dared to defy the boundaries that centuries had built. His name was Benjamin Oliver Davis Sr., and long before medals adorned his chest or titles followed his name, he was just a boy standing beneath the scorching Washington, D.C. sun, staring at a flag that promised freedom, yet withheld it from people like him. The year was 1898, and the Spanish-American War had ignited the nation's pride. Benjamin, barely out of his teens, enlisted, not for glory, but to prove a truth that America refused to see, that patriotism had no color. But the moment he stepped into the army, he learned that racism wore a uniform too. He was given the lowest tasks, ignored by officers, mocked by peers. Yet he never broke. Each insult was another weight on his heart, and another reason to stand taller. In an era when black men were expected to follow, Benjamin dared to lead. He rose through the ranks slowly, painfully, under a system that never wanted to see him succeed. White officers were promoted over him, his achievements buried beneath bureaucracy. But there was fire in his silence, a calm defiance that frightened even those who despised him. He studied harder, drilled longer, and outperformed everyone who doubted him. He understood that to fight racism in the open was suicide, so he fought it with excellence. Every inspection he led, every soldier he trained, every mission he completed was a quiet rebellion against the world's expectations. Years passed, wars came and went, and Benjamin Davis stood unshaken, a black officer in an army that still debated if men like him could lead white troops. When others grew bitter, he grew wiser. "They can deny me everything," he once told a young recruit, "except my discipline." That discipline became his armor, his reputation. He commanded respect not through his rank, but through his integrity. Soldiers followed him, not because they had to, but because they wanted to. By World War I, his leadership was undeniable, yet the army refused to let him command white soldiers. He was stationed with segregated units, forced to navigate a system built to keep him small. But Benjamin turned even that into a victory. He transformed his men, poor, overlooked, and untrained black soldiers, into one of the most disciplined units of the war. They marched sharper, fought harder, and carried themselves with the pride their country denied them. He taught them not just how to survive the battlefield, but how to survive America. "If you bow your head," he would say, "do it only to your Creator." After the war, Davis was stationed around the country, often given dead-end assignments meant to halt his progress. But destiny had other plans. Each post became a classroom where he learned the art of leadership, politics, and patience. He studied his superiors, not to imitate them, but to surpass them. When the army sent him to train new recruits, he turned their training camps into temples of discipline. His reputation spread like wildfire. Commanders who once looked down on him began to respect him, even if they wouldn't admit it out loud. Still, the shadow of segregation loomed large. When white officers refused to salute him, he saluted them back, not in submission, but in silent defiance. He had learned that true power didn't always roar. Sometimes it endured. Then came the Great Depression and the stirrings of another world war. The military began to change, slowly, painfully. America needed heroes, and even its prejudice couldn't deny Benjamin's brilliance forever. In 1940, after 42 years of service, after countless battles fought in silence, he received the promotion that changed history. Brigadier General Benjamin O. Davis Sr., the first black general in the United States Army. The news made headlines across the country, though not all celebrated it. Some saw it as a token gesture. Others called it a revolution. But for Benjamin, it wasn't about fame. It was about legacy. He didn't smile for the cameras. He stood tall, his eyes steady, knowing what that single star on his shoulder meant. It meant every insult, every barrier, every year of patience had been worth it. It meant that the impossible could indeed be done. As the nation entered World War II, General Davis became an advisor on racial policy within the Army, a position that put him face to face with the very leaders who once doubted his worth. He didn't demand revenge, he demanded reform. He fought for fair treatment of black soldiers, for their right to serve, to lead, to die as equals in the name of the same flag. Under his guidance, thousands of African American soldiers found dignity and purpose. He laid the foundation for the desegregation of the military, a change that would officially come years later, but one that began with his quiet persistence. His son, Benjamin O. Davis Jr., followed in his footsteps, becoming the first black general in the U.S. Air Force, a living symbol of the door his father had kicked open. Together, their names became a legacy written in courage and carved in history. But the road wasn't without heartbreak. Even as a general, Benjamin faced isolation. He was often excluded from white officers' meetings, denied access to certain facilities, and forced to live separately. Some saluted him only because the rules demanded it. Yet, he never let bitterness touch his soul. When asked how he endured it all, he simply said, "I did my duty. That was enough." Those 6 words defined his entire life, a life spent proving that dignity could survive even the harshest injustice. When he finally retired, the nation he served began to change. The civil rights movement was rising, young leaders were marching, and though he rarely spoke publicly, Benjamin Davis Sr. watched it all with quiet pride. He knew he had fought his part of the war long before the world noticed. In 1970, at the age of 93, the man who had broken the U.S. Army's color barrier passed away, not as a victim of history, but as its architect. The world didn't erupt in parades, but in the hearts of every soldier who ever dared to dream beyond their limitations, his spirit lived on. Today, his name doesn't appear on as many monuments as it should, but every salute rendered by a black officer, every general who rises from humble beginnings, carries a piece of his legacy. He didn't just lead men, he led a movement disguised in a uniform. He showed the world that greatness isn't given. It's earned in silence through patience, resilience, and faith in the truth that someday, history will catch up. Benjamin O. Davis Sr. was more than the first black general. He was proof that no chain, no prejudice, and no system can stand forever against the will of a man who refuses to break. His story is not just military history, it's human history. The story of a soldier who fought 2 wars at once, one for his country's freedom, and one for his own. And perhaps the greatest victory of all was that he won them both, not through hate or vengeance, but through unshakable honor. Because some heroes fight with swords, others with words, but the rarest kind fight with patience, dignity, and faith that justice will come even if it takes a lifetime.